Blue Revolution, I want to welcome a very good friend to Blue Revolution to our program here. This is Michele Hornish, who is with Every State Blue, formerly known as It Starts Today, as many in the group know it. And Michele, thank you so much for being with us today here in Blue Rev.
I am so glad to be with all of you, and hello to all of the members. It is such a pleasure to be with all of you as well as we are gearing up for 2024.
Indeed. And speaking of 2024, Michele, we are 1 year away from the big fight. Although the fight's going to be going on all year, but the big day, I should say. Michele, how are you feeling about 2024 as we approach the 1 year mark here?
Oh gosh, loaded question, right?
Yes.
Very hopeful because I'm seeing groups like Blue Revolution. I'm seeing tons of different people across the country who are waking up again, who are now getting more engaged again. We're a year out now. I think that the speaker fight and Mike Johnson's ascendance, I think, has woken a lot more people up because of his extremism and because he once again kind of brings to the fore the idea that, oh, we have a presidential election coming up and that there are some really significant federal programs and projects and things like that that we need to be thinking about. At the same time, so I'm really hopeful. I see lots of activity. At the same time, I'm as nervous as everyone else is. This is going to be a turnout game. This is going to be a motivation game. And, Democrats, we need to get really realistic, get really serious really quickly, and make sure that we're doing everything that we can now to put ourselves in the best position in November of 2024. I say this all the time. This used to be part of the talk that I would give to people back in the days after the 2016 election. But the morning after the 2016 election, I was crying like a lot of people were. I was absolutely inconsolable. And I remember at that moment being consumed by one emotion, and that is regret, because I knew that I could have done more. And I don't want us to look back 1 year from now to look back and say, I could have done more and I wish that I would have, right? So that's what I'm trying to remind people of now is let's get our ducks in a row. Let's get things going. Let's register people. Let's, make sure that we're turning them out. Let's get them engaged. Let's raise the funds. Let's do the thing and start now so that we don't have those feelings in 2024.
Okay, regret. So we're an anti-regret machine today. That's what we're doing in Blue Rev.
Very much.
I like it. Michele, so your organization, Every State Blue, which recently changed its name from It Starts Today, as it was known up until recently. Tell us how your 2020 effort went, because a lot of folks here in Blue Rev, I believe it was well, I don't have the exact number, but it was a lot of people here in Blue Rev.
Lot.
A lot of people gave to the presidential nominee fund back in 2020. And if folks remember, this was before we knew who the nominee was going to be. It was during the Democratic primary. So we had Warren and Sanders and Biden and Buttigieg and Klobuchar and all these great candidates. And eventually, obviously, Biden got it. And the money that people were raising monthly eventually went to Biden, the eventual nominee. But Michele, from your vantage point, and you are the organization that basically handled those funds for Blue Rev. Tell us how 2020 went. How much did you do, and how effective was that effort in 2020?
Yeah. So, thank you to everyone that's a member of Blue Revolution that joined us and that helped in that effort. It was amazing. Like you intimated, we have a lot of other projects ongoing in a number of different states. And then we also have a congressional project that we're doing called Forgotten Democrats. But in 2020, our main presidential effort was one that you all helped with, which, is our presidential fund, where we were raising funds for the eventual nominee. And we raised together, all of us, over $275,000 or $250,000, which is amazing. That is an incredible amount of money for one organization, one group of people to be sending along to the nominee. So we were really, really proud of that effort and excited to do, to reprise it. Let's do it again. Let's, make sure that we're supporting the nominee, whomever they will be. We believe they'll be Biden, but whomever they will be. and make sure that we're in a good place again in 2024.
For sure. Yeah, so $250,000, that was great. That was just from Blue Revers alone. That's just people who are concerned, and as you said, they don't want to feel regret after the election day and just at their laptops, on their phones, seeing other folks in Blue Rev giving as well. And I used to sort of say back in 2020, and I'll say again in 2024, it's better than kind of privately just giving a donation on your own and just sort of like throwing it out into the universe and hoping that it helps. But you're seeing other people giving as well, right? So if you see someone else in the group sign up for $25 or $50 or $10 or whatever it is, $100, all over the map, and you then sign up as well, like it really is kind of a, not to be corny about it, but it's kind of like a magical thing, right? You're like, we together are doing this. And we have a sense of how much we're doing together here. I think that's kind of the biggest part of Blue Rev as a community, is giving together, working together, fighting together. But Michele, all that said, so $250,000 in 2020. What are your plans for 2024? What are your visions? What are your plans? What's the big picture that you folks are looking at Every State Blue for 2024?
Sure. Well, like I said, we have a lot of different projects that are ongoing. So Every State Blue is the umbrella organization. People can see all of our different projects at everystateblue.org. But we have 3 different state-based projects going on right now. One of them is called Blue Ohio, one is called Blue Missouri, and one is called Blue Texas. Now, all of those support, use kind of this crowdfunding, community-based giving, where people donate monthly, and then those funds are consolidated. They're held until after the primary, and then they're given out to state legislative nominees using a super unique bottom-up bathtub method. We're the only ones that use this, to my knowledge, where we actually look at the campaign finance filings for all of the Democratic state legislative nominees, and we look for the people who have the least. So we look for the people who are predominantly in rural areas. They get no support. It's very difficult to find people to run in those areas, let alone for them to actually be able to get the funding that they need for yard signs and mailers and, chili cook-off entrance fees. I mean, those kinds of things, like very bare bones organizing work, the costs of that. And we actually fund those people. And we use a bathtub method where we provide them with equal levels of support going up. So in Ohio, which we launched in April of 2022, by November 2022, we actually were able to ensure that all of the Ohio nominees, no Democratic nominee for Ohio State Legislature had less than $5,800. Wow. Which may not seem like a lot, but it is a lot.
Yeah.
When you're talking about those state legislative nominees.
Yeah.
Because there had been over 10, I think it was 13, who had less than $5,000 in 2020. So we're trying to build the flywheel that is going to provide the support for the people who are running for state legislature in some of these areas that have been left behind for a really, really long time. And let me explain why that's super important and give you a great example of someone who has ascended to the highest ranks. Mike Johnson. He is my poster child. He brags on his website, that he ran for Louisiana State Legislature and was unopposed twice. He was elected to the Louisiana State Legislature twice. We didn't run against him. Then he ran for Congress. And in 2018, his opponent had, I think, $30,000. And in 2020, his opponent had, I think it was $15,000. And then in 2022, he wasn't opposed at all. This is critical. This person had never been opposed. They'd never had a meaningful, serious election where someone had been fighting against them and bringing up all of the extremist positions that he has, all of the things that he's said and done in his past.
Right.
Now, if he would have had an opponent, would we have known all of these things? Maybe, maybe not. Right. Would his colleagues would his fellow Republicans have voted for him for speaker? Maybe, maybe not. But it would have been a lot easier for the mainstream press, I think, to have found out what some of his positions were had he had meaningful, serious opposition throughout his political career. But instead, we gave him runway.
Right, right.
We got to stop giving him runway. So that's what our projects do, right? So our project in Ohio, in Missouri, in Texas, they all operate in the same way. And on Tuesday, we are having an election night watch party in Ohio. So David Pepper, author of Laboratories of Autocracy, and then also the companion guide to democracy, amazing writer, amazing author, former Ohio Democratic Party chair. He's our co-founder of Blue Ohio. And he and we are hosting an election night watch party for issue 1, which is the abortion amendment in Ohio. So people should all come. I will give you the link where people can register. We are going to have a lot of special guests. In August, we had one of these, and we had Nancy Pelosi, we had Gavin Newsom, we had Jamie Harrison. This time, we know already that we have Congressman Jamie Raskin, but we have others that I can't yet announce. But people should come and join us on Tuesday night to watch the results come in so that we can see. Hopefully, it'll be a party, we're hoping.
Excellent. Yeah, we'll post something about that in Blue Rev too. And we're doing this 1 year out show on November 5th, and it's a little bit, like there is actually really important elections 2 days after this. We partially wanted to do this like after that election day, but anyway, we're killing a couple of birds with one stone this week, and doing some effort there in Virginia and Ohio, and there are some important things going on this week.
Well, and I know that a lot of members will have helped in Ohio in one way, shape, or form, right? With text banks and phone banks and things like that. We absolutely want you to join us so that we can all be together as we're watching those results come in. So you can register. I don't know if it will be above or below where we are, but hopefully you'll provide the link. Above. Okay.
For sure. We will definitely do that, Michelle. And, I just want to say, because of, first of all, just what you said about Mike Johnson and allowing Republicans to run unopposed gives them free reign to go to the craziest places that they go. And, that's kind of one of the products of today's Republican Party is sort of gerrymandering, making it less likely that Democrats will even want to put their lives and their time and their money into running a race that they're unlikely to win. And so funds like this allow us to put up some opposition to this constant rightward drift. And as you said, even give some clues to reporters about how to report on this person, sort of the positions that they've held. So
I mean, we need to decouple this whole idea. Elections are not binary. They may look that way. They're not, right? So it's not just win or loss. And unfortunately, a lot of times it is hard to find Democrats to run in the roughest, I like to call them the roughest, toughest, reddest areas, right?
Yeah.
Because they know that they're going to lose. That's not the point. What we're trying to do is to get folks to recognize that what we're doing is organizing. And that's what you all do, right? That's what Blue Revolution does, organizing. What we're doing is we're giving these people funds so that they can organize, so that they can rebuild the infrastructure that for too long has gone, unsupported and fallen apart in huge swaths of rural America. Well, we have people in those areas that can help build it up, but they need some help. And so telling them that they're going to lose is not helpful. That's not what we're looking for right now anyway. What we're looking for right now is for them to rebuild what used to be in their community, to rebuild the name of the Democratic Party, for them to, start turning out more people, start registering more young people, right? There are high school students in every rural area, and not all of them will be conservative. Some of them will be looking for someone, who sees the world that they do. So let's make sure that there are people like that in every district across the United States. And that's what we're trying to do, is to get those organizing funds to the people who can use them.
Right. And I was just reading Heather Cox Richardson last night was writing about Biden and the way that he's speaking to farming communities right now. And he's out there doing that right now and explaining and sort of talking about what is in his major legislative achievements and how this helps farming communities and something like 400,000 family farms of died in the last 50 years or something, and he was sort
Right.
of spouting off these statistics about it. And so we can compete everywhere if we do, as you said, this organizing. That's elections are not just
Right.
about binary choices; they are organizing. And so,
And, thinking about who is the best person to give that message, right? So Biden is giving that message and saying, listen, there were 400,000 family farms that have died out in the last 50 years. And all of these things that I'm doing within my administration, these are all things that are helping to bring money back into, small farms or into small communities, into rural communities.
Mm.
He can say that until he's blue in the face.
Mm-hmm.
Some people in that area are not going to hear him, but they might be able to hear it from someone that they've known their entire life, who is a former librarian, or who is, well, maybe librarians are not the right ones to talk about now, but someone who is the former football coach, or someone who has been, a member of the community for a long time, who can hold things up and say, wait a second, this is what Democrats believe in, and this is something that we all have been saying for a long time.
Right.
So it's partly like marrying the message that we have with the right messengers. And again, that's all part of organizing, right? We talk about the need for deep canvassing and the need to have all these conversations. That's where these nominees come into play. They can do that kind of deep canvassing because they are part of their own community. Much, much harder for someone from a city to come in and knock doors in a rural area and have as much credibility.
Right. So for folks listening, like when you are giving to this presidential fund
Yes.
that we're launching today, you are also bolstering this organization that is doing work to make sure that we are building the party, that we are doing the organizing, we're building the party, we are making sure that these elections do not go unopposed, we are making sure that that we are connecting politics to the community. It's not just something we do on a spreadsheet. It's something that we do out there in the real world. And so, we would just urge everyone to please sign up for a monthly pledge, and this will really add up, and it will help this other great organization and support this great organization, Every State Blue. And today is the day. Right now is the time to do it. We're a year out. We've got so much work to do. We should really start right now. And Michele, do you have any other sort of closing thoughts here for Blue Revers? We're just so happy to have you on, and anything else that you'd like to add.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to every single person who's watching, and everyone who has contributed time, treasure, talent, all of those things. It's all needed. And like you said, we've got a year, and a year seems like a long time, but you blink your eyes and it's over. So it's important for us to get started and to keep that momentum going. So I'm so grateful to be here with you today. I'm grateful for the opportunity to talk about what we're doing. And again, I'm grateful for all of the work that you all are doing. Thank you so much.
Great. Michele Hornish, thanks so much for being here. Appreciate you. Blue Rev, we're here today with the founder of Field Team 6, which is a fantastic voter registration organization with the very catchy and true slogan, "Register Democrats, Save the World." I want to welcome to our volunteer sign up extravaganza, the founder of Field Team 6, Jason Berlin. Jason, thank you so much for being here with Blue Rev.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you, mighty Blue Revers, for everything you have done and continue to do.
Indeed. And thank you, Jason, for all your work. How are you feeling 1 year out about the 2024 election? It's November 5th, 2024. What are your gut feelings about this massively important election coming up in a year from now?
It is for all the marbles. Once again, the stakes could not be higher. This will decide whether we get to keep our democracy or not. And how I'm feeling is it's a blend of terror and hope. I mean, we have, as a movement, not just Field Team 6, of course, everybody, all of our organizations together, and just the left, we have won major battles, almost every major battle since 2016, 2018, 20, 22, and this year. And so connecting those dots, and connecting the dots just from this year, where in April in Wisconsin, Wisconsin voters, along with the national activism infrastructure that now exists, and we can all train our fire on individual elections like this, they were able to secure an 11-point landslide victory for Justice Janet Protasewicz, flipping the Supreme Court liberal for the first time in a generation. That was huge. That pre-2016, before all this national activism was here, I think we would all be like, a state Supreme Court election, what is it? Who cares? You know, what is that?
Right.
Connecting that one dot this year with the dot in the dead of summer in August in Ohio, Republican chicanery, you know, they were trying to move the goalposts and move it to from 50 to 60% of the people needed to pass a popular referendum, change a rule that had been there for over 100 years. They thought no one would come out. Everyone came out. We won by 14 points. I like the direction this is going, you know?
Going well.
So you need 2 points to make a line, and we'll see. We're getting a third point in 5 days.
Yes.
In Virginia, Ohio, Kentucky, New Jersey, Mississippi, Pennsylvania, all the states that have elections. And I'm hoping it continues along that line, and it sets us up for a huge sweep in 24, because that's what we need. We need to win, not in a nail biter.
Right. You know, it's funny you mentioned, I never really dawned on me that way. You think about, like, you know, I was sort of like, we just moved into a new office here in Blue Rev, and it's kind of like emptying out some boxes and some old sort of political paraphernalia from over the years. And I saw like a sticker from the 2014 midterms, which was a year that, you know, did not go well for Democrats. And I don't even remember what the sticker said, but I was thinking that of like, yeah, I couldn't imagine people being plugged into a state Supreme Court race in 2014, right? Like, I mean,
Right.
It's just the way that people have become so activated since this tsunami of Trumpism in the last you know, 7 or 8 years has been really remarkable. And Jason, you were a TV producer in LA before starting Field Team 6, and actually we're very similar, because I also sort of left my full-time position before in academia to move on to Blue Rev, and you sort of did the same thing with Field Team 6 after Trump won. Tell us about founding Field Team 6. Tell us about the impact of Field Team 6 since you started it.
Thank you for that question. Yeah, I was a TV writer, producer. You're a teacher. You were doing something honorable. Yeah.
Well, you know, it takes a village, as they say, right? So
yeah. But yeah, so 2016, you know, the Trump's election broke my mind and heart, like probably everyone watching this call, and a slim majority of people in the entire country. And I felt like I needed to change my life and get into the fight full time. So I did the financial death spiral, you know, of volunteering, and it was all I wanted to do and could do. Volunteering and then organizing, which I learned about, you know, found out it's just volunteering, but more so. And you know, worked with Swing Left, worked with the Democratic Party of California, helped register 6,000 Democrats in Southern California, helped flip a few seats, including all of Orange County, for the 2018 midterms. And that's when my job with the party ended, which is routine and also insane. And it just seemed like a bad time to break up the band. So that's why I started Field Team 6, so that we could do this same work of registering Democrats, but have somewhere where institutional knowledge could be built up and improved over time, refined. And so our goal with our stated mission, Register Democrats, Save the World, was to get into it on a national battlefield and see what kind of good trouble we could get into. We started chapters in 12 different states, and then COVID hit. At that point, we were exclusively in-person voter drives. So it shut us down completely. But again, it seemed like a bad time to break up the band. So we cracked the nut of digital outreach by necessity. figured out how to register new Democrats in this always respectful but proudly partisan way, super effective way, where we can tell people what Democrats stand for. We can mention candidates' names and get the name recognition up, as well as registering them. We figured out how to do it digitally. We started building this database. It's a one-of-a-kind database. No other organization has in the country. It is the most databases that if an organization has access to one, are, the voter rolls. It's made up of voters. This is the opposite. This database is 9 million people who are unregistered, but also likely Democrats, the vast majority in swing states. It's our secret weapon for all our digital outreach. So using that, we do postcarding, we do text banking, free text banking on a platform we developed, phone banking, and it's super effective. So our stretch goal, when we were just in-person voter drives, our stretch goal for 2020 was registering 100,000 new Democratic voters, and that was a lot. It was going to take a lot to get us there. We went digital, and by the 2020 election, we did not register 100,000. We helped register 785,000.
Wow.
And of those, 500,000 voted, and broken down by state, just 3 states I'm going to mention that came out to 79% of Biden-Harris victory margin in Wisconsin, came out to 5 times their entire victory margin in Georgia, and 6 times the victory margin in Arizona. Incredible. So the 3 states that tipped the Electoral College. Wow. So yeah, since then we brought that total to 2.6 million Democratic voters. We our goal, right, helps prevent the red wave, turn it into more of a rosé spritz in 22, and then for 24, our goal is to win it all, hold the White House, defend the Senate, which will be really tough, and take back the House, and of course win down ballot as much as possible.
Excellent. That's amazing, Jason. I was not aware, when you put it that way, how effective this was in turning out the vote in these swing states. And I've heard it said before, it might have been from you, that that registered voters vote at way higher rates than people are even aware of, right? So like, once you register people, you're kind of almost sending them to the polls already, right? Like,
oh my God, that is
such a big
impact. I'm so glad you brought that up. Yeah, so that's like, why register voters is a huge question. Voter registration is kind of the neglected half of the entire equation. Everyone focuses on GOTV, getting out the vote, and that is super important, but that's just the final half. You can't get out the vote if those voters don't exist to begin with. It's right. Like, no one, has had that talk about where a voter comes from. We're the birds and the bees. We concentrate on democratogenesis, the birth of a Democrat.
Right.
And it's absolutely true. In a presidential election, voters who are registered turn out at a rate of 85%.
Wow.
Even young voters, who we've heard turn out, was about 23%. Among young voters who were registered to vote, that turnout was 86% in 2020. Wow. So even for young people, that simple act of registration is a game changer. And when you look at winning elections in general, it turns out our greatest weakness is not turnout, it's lack of enough registered Democrats. Right. So that's why this is the number one most effective way to win elections, especially in a presidential.
Fantastic. You had mentioned that in 2020, before COVID hit, you were doing, I think, most of your work in person, and I can speak to that a little bit. I was acting as the field director in Pennsylvania.
Yes, you were.
Before COVID hit, and it was a really great feeling. Although COVID cut off, and for those who are unaware of what that was, we were literally just taking clipboards, going out into the streets of Philadelphia and registering people on the streets. And I was living in Boston at the time, and commuting down there and helping train teams and getting some sort of local folks to do their own trainings and things like that. But it was wonderful on like election day 2020. Well, I guess election day lasted for a few days in 2020, unsurprisingly, but like watching the results come in from Philly, and the whole nation had its eyes on Philadelphia. And I was texting with like these volunteers that we had trained at like a Dunkin' Donuts in Philly, and next to the community college in Philly, and saying like, you know, these votes that are trickling in right now that are being counted are people that we registered in Philadelphia in person with clipboards. So, you know, but anyway, you mentioned that, you know, you obviously, like all organizations, had to pivot after COVID hit, moved to a lot more sort of virtual online activities. And I guess those are the two things that we want to focus on here in Blue Rev. We want to find folks who can do in-person clipboard registering, talking to strangers. And I can tell you from someone who did this for hundreds of hours in 2020, it was just the feeling of accomplishment you get from that is completely undeniable. Just the feeling that you get at the end of the day after getting X amount of people to register as Democrats was just incredible. And for those people who are nervous about doing this, talking to strangers on the street, I can tell you that, like, I do not remember one time that someone was like unpleasant towards me. Like if they were a Republican or they were indifferent, like they just kept walking. There was no issues with that whatsoever. Never had any volunteers who ever had any issues with it. It's just not worth people's time to stand there and argue about politics on the street with a stranger. So the in-person stuff was great. We definitely want to get people in Blue Rev signed up for that. And that's going to be part of the sign up sheet that we're posting here. Is if you'd like to lead a training or even be part of a team, we really need you, especially in these swing states. And then number two, Jason, now you were talking earlier about text banking, and the fact that we are looking, Field Team 6 is looking for 1,000 people, 1,000 volunteers to text non-registered voters to get them registered out of this data bank of millions of people that you have. So that is our big goal here in Blue Rev, is to really reach those 1,000 texters. There's 95,000 people here in Blue Rev. But yeah, Jason, if you want to speak to both the clipboarding in-person voter registration and the texting voter registration, that's really what we're looking for today, 1 year out from Election Day. But if you could speak to those two activities a little bit.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So, okay, so we have a free texting platform. It's called BYOP texting, or Bring Your Own Phone. You don't actually, most people don't actually use their own phones, although you can. Most people use a free Google Voice number. And we have an amazing trainer who's been a trainer her whole life, and she has the patience of a saint, and she takes you through every step. So no matter.
And Jason, it's anonymous. You're sending these anonymous
Exactly.
to Google Voice. Okay, just to make sure. Gotcha.
Exactly. So if you do it with a Google Voice number, you don't have to worry about people calling you back. People rarely call you back anyway. But you know, just an added level there. So it's free texting. People can do about 100 texts a day before the system is throttled. So it's a free system. It feels free, it's not like text banks that cost thousands of dollars, which we also do when we have the money. But this is something that we can do with no money. It just relies on people power. So that is why our moonshot is getting an army of 1,000 BYOP texters. If you can send out 100 texts a day, that's 100,000 free texts that are getting sent out a day to unregistered likely Democrats, turning them into Democrats, into voters. So we have in our database is 9 million total. 6 million of those unregistered likely Democrats have cell phones. If we get 1,000 people texting, we could reach all 6 million of those people in 2 months. Send them a second text within another 2 months. That is huge.
Right. Yeah, that really adds up. That really adds up. So it's anonymous texting. You need to do a training for it because it just take a little bit of education to learn how to do it. But once you learn how to do it, you are literally changing the world by sitting from wherever you are and doing this work. And like you were saying earlier, a lot of research over the years has gone into voters, registered voters, how do voters act, what brings voters to the polls. Very little research done on the larger unregistered pool, and that's what we're working on here. So that's great. So we got the texting program. That's one thing we're going to sign up for. Jason, tell us the classic model of Field Team 6 as well, of getting people registered by carrying clipboards and talking to people on the street. How does that work? Because we're signing people up for that too.
Yes, that's amazing. I just wanted to, I was quickly doing the math here. 6 million people. Let me just make sure I get the number of zeros right.
Yes.
It's in general, it costs 4 cents each for the paid text banks. So to text all 6 million people in our database would cost $240,000. You know, that is just another measure of the extent of what you'd be doing. Also,
but we're doing it with people. We're doing it with people.
Doing it for free,
right?
With people,
right?
In general, 1 in 3 of the people that we contact winds up getting registered as a Democrat or left-leaning independent. So if you're contacting 6 million people, we would expect about 2 million new Democrats or progressive independents. That is, I mean, that would swing elections across the country.
So let's just state it plainly. If we can get 1,000 people signed up for this, we could get 2 million new Democrats across the country. 2 million. I mean, that's like the 2020 election was decided by 44,000 votes in 3 states, 44,000. So we're talking about 2 million. So this is greatly impactful. So there's no reason not to sign up. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And there is a training once a week, every week. And so, yes. Okay. About in-person voter registration, as far as efficacy, like per interaction, there's never going to be anything as effective as face-to-face voter registration. So, you know, the people you register, there is more likelihood that they will vote. They've had an in-person interaction with someone who cares. And it's just incredibly effective. It is super fun. You know, it is difficult in the beginning. You know, it's every time I do it, I've done it thousands of times, and still I'm a little nervous in the beginning. And it's the first few people you're nervous about talking to, and then you realize, oh, really, no one's paying attention. You know, like, although the stakes on the political level could not be higher, the stakes on the personal level could not be lower. You know,
right.
If you see someone you don't want to talk to, you don't have to talk to them. No one complains about the person with the clipboard not talking to.
Right.
You know, so you can make those decisions.
Like, hey, why didn't you talk to me? I'm walking here, and my chopped liver here. You can't bother me. Yeah,
just doesn't happen.
Right.
And like you were saying, people do not yell at you. It's very hard to dehumanize a human when they're just standing in front of you.
Right.
It's much easier over text. You'll get some ridiculous replies, which I collect them. I'm going to make a coffee book out of them. There's some really good ones.
That's a good idea.
But yeah, in person, you know, it's all about just starting a conversation,
right?
With a good hook. For 4 years, we use this, and unfortunately, we can use this still. Excuse me, miss, could you help me save the world from Trump? I'm registering Democrats to vote, something like that. You know, if that's too much, or you want to work up to that, you can always start with the issues. You can say, hey, you know, excuse me, can you help me fight for civil rights today? Can you help me fight for women's rights today? Right. I'm registering Democrats to vote, something like that. Hit them with a value, and it's more likely to stop them. There's another way that one of our genius trainers came up with. We have stickers on our website that you can they're free. You can just pay shipping and get them, or you can even just print them out, buy your own Avery sticker sheets for the printer and print them out. They're issues based, and there's Black Lives Matter, there's abortion rights, LGBTQ plus rights. They're cute stickers. People go nuts for stickers. You can just print out or have shipped to you a whole bunch, have them in a box, and as someone goes by, say, hey, would you like a free sticker? That's a great way to stop them, because people really, you won't believe how nuts people go for stickers. It's kind of strange. And depending on which one they pick, you can be like, they pick Black Lives Matter. That's a great sticker. That the Democrats are the one party fighting for civil rights. Can I register you to vote right now?
Right.
It's kind of genius.
Yeah, and the good thing is too, a lot of people ask or have asked over the years, and when I was down in Philly, asking like, how do we prevent registering Republicans? And the fact is, if you're saying, would you like to help save the world from Trump, someone's not going to stop and engage with you on what you're trying to do.
That's true. Also, if you're wearing a liberal looking shirt,
right,
or hat or pin, it really acts as Republican repellent, and they just don't walk up to you to begin with. If you have a Biden shirt or Democrats, or an Obama shirt, really, like, the less subtle, the better.
And look, in the abstract, as you said many times before, if you do, in the abstract, we want everyone to vote, of course, right? But like, if you like the act of voting, if you like the principle of voting, there's one party that's for that, and those are the people that we're registering. So
no, exactly, right. It would be, in a saner world, like the worlds we've lived through,
right,
you want everyone to vote. In this current world, you're exactly right. There's only one party that's for voter registration. The other one is attacking it across the country in every way possible. So
the pro-democracy party. I mean, the word Democratic Party has never been more literal at any point in my life than it is right now. So Jason, we're so excited to get started on all this. If there's anything else you'd like to add, feel free, as a closing remark here, but we're so excited for this. But anything else to add?
Sure. Yeah, I'm super excited about it too. I'm super proud to be working with you. Field Team 6 gets nothing done without our amazing, badass partners like you. And I mean, I know you've been doing it for so long. I just have so much respect and admiration for all of you and the inspiring things that you're doing. And last thing I want to say is just, our plan, our goal, I'm sure our common goal here is to not win in a nail biter. We've done that before. It's nice. We're over it. We're done with that. This time, let's shut them down.
Yes.
We need to speak clearly in one voice and just show them that America is saying no to misogyny, no to transphobia and homophobia, no to racism, no to fascism, and yes to abortion rights, to women's rights, yes to civil rights, LGBTQ plus rights, and yes to democracy. So
indeed,
if anyone can get that done, it's all of us together.
I second that entirely. And folks, if you haven't signed up yet, the link is right there. So let's get going. We've got so much work to do. This is going to be the fight of our lifetime. So Jason Berlin from Field Team 6, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for all that you do. And folks, let's get going. Go Blue Rev. Let's get this moving. We got a year to do this. So let's go. Thanks again, Jason.
Yeah.
Blue Rev, with us today, we have the pleasure of speaking to Reid McCollum, who is with the Progressive Turnout Project, who we worked with in 2020, and we are planning to work with again in 2024 to save our democracy. So, Reid, I want to welcome you to the Blue Rev Sign Up 1 Year Out Extravaganza. Welcome, Reid.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks, Dan. Thanks to all the Blue Rev volunteers.
It's great to have you here, friend. We've been working with Reid and Progressive Turnout Project for a while here. 2020, the midterms, We have done a lot of special elections with Reid. We worked with them in the Virginia race, which is happening around now. But Reid, I just want to ask you, a year out from the 2024 election, how do you feel about this election? What's your gut sense right now of 2020?
You know, Dan, I'm feeling optimistic. I mean, I think we have the ability to control the outcome, which is what I like to focus on. I know we know Biden can defeat Donald Trump. We can retake control of the House, and I believe we can even hold the Senate. That's going to be the most challenging. But if we do hold the Senate, we have the votes now to codify Roe, pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, and more. On the flip side, if Biden loses re-election, then I think it's clear that American democracy will be over. Trump's second term would be radically different than the first. He'll replace federal staff and judges with authoritarian goons. So, the stakes are high, but we can control our own destiny, and we have to.
Absolutely. I get the sense that 2024 is going to be a lot like 2020. It's going to be similarly close. It's going to be similarly contentious and similarly stressful, but also there are a lot of ways that we can mitigate that stress while doing some good. That's kind of my take on it. But you're right, Reid, that there's a lot of things that we can accomplish just in terms of just legislation. If we keep the Senate, which is very, very doable, flip the House. I think we only need 5 seats to flip the House.
Yeah, something like that.
And of course, reelect the president. And through our partners, we're going to be doing all this work in Blue Rev. Reid, what brought you into politics? I mean, why is politics so important to you? Why do you work at Progressive Turnout Project? Tell us a little bit about what brought you into this work.
I'm one of the millions that really was resisting the orange man and all of his evil, and have stayed involved. So I think the realization for me and what's kept me involved is that each of us can make a huge difference in this existential fight. Against inequality, fascism, Christian nationalists, corporate greed. It's really up to us in the grassroots, and volunteers can make a huge difference. And it's not only a fight that we have to win, it's a fight that we can win. And this is the winning side of history. We're fighting for each other. The values are on our side. And that not only allows me to sort of turn my anger into action, but it gives me a sense of purpose that is why I now spend all my time doing politics.
Purpose is that's the big word, I think, that I felt, and I think that a lot of people in Blue Rev have felt ever since 2016, and before, of course, but especially 2016, when we felt hopeless, we felt like we were in the darkness, things were felt so disorienting, but having a direction and having some purpose really is a way to mitigate that anxiety. So Reid, at Progressive Turnout Project, you folks are giving us this great way to give us some purpose and give us some direction and give us some activity. And so we're going to be working with you again, as I said, on postcards for 2024. Tell us, Reid, how did the postcard writing go in 2020? And how effective were they? If you could speak to that, what did you do, and how effective was the postcarding in 2020 that we did with you?
Yeah, so I'll provide a little bit of broader context. Is through Progressive Turnout and Project, Postcards of Swing States has organized volunteers to write 43 million postcards since 2020. We now have 5 large randomized controlled experiments to measure how effective they are. We've tested, I want to say, about 9 or 10 messages. We've won several awards through the Analyst Institute. So we are at the cutting edge of demonstrating and proving how effective postcard writing is, and then refining that tactic in terms of the messages and the timing. So in Biden's election, we added thousands of votes. We know that, but we learned a lot. And from the experiment that we did last year for the general election, we added over 17,000 votes for Democrats across the country, which more than made the difference in many close races. And that's the kind of impact that we expect to have again next year. So we know postcard writing is effective, and it's part of one of the sort of ways to boost Democratic turnout. Which, given how close elections are, rallying potential Democrats to vote, especially in the weeks and months ahead of the election, is it's really a critical part of what winning looks like to make sure that we get Democrats elected.
43 million. That's really incredible. I actually didn't know that number. But that's more than I actually thought, and I was already impressed with what you did and what we did as partners. But that's really quite incredible. So we're bringing out lots more votes, folks, by doing these postcards. It's not just busy work. It is real effective get out the vote strategy, and they're fun to do, right? I mean, people have a good time with them. It's a way to bring people together. I know that in 2020 and beyond, every time we've done postcards, people talk about getting their friends together, getting their family together, getting their neighbors together. I mean, I know for me, up in Boston in 2020, we were doing, before the pandemic, we were doing a lot of meeting at coffee shops in the neighborhood that I lived in. And now down here in New York, we're planning on doing the same thing. So we're going to be doing a lot of this in Blue Rev as we go on into 2024, getting people together, right? That's sort of part of it, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, postcards are a gateway to activism. It is the best way to sort of organize and bring our friends and coworkers and others that we know that are like-minded, that want to take action. It's a step towards building that habit of activism, devoting more of folks' time to that. You meet people, you've realized it feels good to take action. Anybody can write postcards. They don't have to have 4 hours to walk 5 miles knocking doors. But then you meet somebody, and you might go out and knock doors that weekend, if you live in an area if you're lucky enough to live in an area where close competitive races are near you. We all have school board races, and build progressive community, and that's power building.
Yeah.
And I think that's a part that's we don't want to overlook how important it is to expand sort of the activist base and build that power. And postcards work great for that, because it's not really one or the other. If I was going to recruit people to go door to door canvassing, I'd want to start by inviting them to a postcard writing party.
Yeah. Yeah. Habit of activism. I love that. That's one thing that I think that I've gotten under my skin over the last several years. It becomes a habit to do this work. And I'm always, whatever excuse I can make to hang out with people is where I'm at these days. So postcarding, getting people together for that reason is just, it's a real joy. Reid, what are your plans for 2024? If you could kind of speak to the big picture and then maybe some of the details. I think members of Blue Rev would love to know just what's our big picture and our more detailed picture of 2024.
Yeah, so I first want to actually step back from postcards and just give a little bit of context for the battleground that we're anticipating next year, and also just PTP's our progressive turnout projects broader programs.
Mhm.
So the presidential election, because of the electoral college, it's very likely that Georgia, Arizona, and Wisconsin, if you had to pick only 3 states, could determine the outcome of the presidential election. There's other states that are very, very important as well. Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Michigan, North Carolina are at the top of that list. So we're running programs in all of those states and many, many more. But for the presidential election, those are the states that really matter most, rather than we see polls about the popular vote. So progressive turnout projects primary programs are actually paid direct voter contact. So we do a distributed organizing canvassing program that folks that live in Georgia, North Carolina, Wisconsin, or Arizona could take part in. It's great for rural, underrepresented communities, for young folks. It's very flexible. It's a paid program that starts in September next year. So we'll invest millions in each of those states in direct voter contact to do door-to-door canvassing. And then we also have a campaign fellows program, which is a great entry-level position into politics. Those are paid staffers that don't have to have any experience, that we train and then get hired by state legislative and state Senate campaigns and also federal campaigns. We train them on direct voter contact, and provide the financial resources for those candidates to have somebody working on those campaigns. Because we've learned since 2010 the hard way what happens if Democrats neglect those down ballot state ledge races and judicial races, because the Republicans have been crushing us, and then they've gerrymandered all the maps. So state after state, we have to work on focusing on rural areas and these state legislative races as well. So we had, hundreds and hundreds, I think I want to say over 500 campaign fellows last year for the midterms. So if anybody is either interested themselves or knows somebody that would be interested in working full-time on a campaign during the fall next year, we provide a resume bank for, and I don't have the list of states. It's a lot of states, because anytime that we can break a Republican trifecta or flip a chamber or win control of a state legislative chamber, or develop a Democratic trifecta, we might be there. So it's not sort of the same as what you think of as purple swing states. In terms of postcards, we plan to do a program that, if there's enough demand from volunteers, will be almost 26 million postcards. So we've done 43 in the last 3 years. A goal of 26 next year is quite a lot. We're going to need a lot of volunteers, and that would have an unbelievably large impact on the outcome. So there are 10 states, so pretty much every competitive state for the presidential race, but also the key Senate states will be doing a postcard program, and then we'll later on add most of the competitive House districts all across the country as well.
Great. So 26 million, that's going to be the goal for 2024. And I hope that we can play a big part of that. We can get started basically now. And Reid, you and I had talked about this before, and this is why we decided that on November 5th of 2023, which is exactly 1 year out, we would actually get started on postcards here in Blue Rev. Now, we're going to do something a little different than we're going to basically have 2 stages of this, right? So we don't, the postcard program that Progressive Turnout Project is going to do is going to be free postcards that postcard writers can get, but that's not going to be until May, around May, right?
Yeah, we'll have free postcards starting in mid-May.
Mm-hmm. From now until then, if folks want to get an early start, and we hope that a lot of people will decide to do this because people are itching to get started, they can buy their own postcards right now and get started. Write a message on that postcard to urge someone to vote, and then leave the address and the name blank for now. And then later on in the spring of 2024, we will have the names and addresses that they can then fill in. So you can sort of stack your cards, right? Get your postcards, write the message. And Reid, you said that there are messages that you folks can provide that have been data tested to work to get people to vote, right? So that's what we're doing. Stage 1, you can buy your own postcards right now, write the message that the messages that we can provide for you. And then starting in May, the postcards are free that you can get, and you can get the addresses and the names right away starting in May.
Yeah, that's right. So we'll provide instructions, and then people can pick from 3 different short messages. And the other advantage of this using your own postcards would be that you can decide later on which state or Senate race or even House district you want those postcards to go to, because you can then request a list of voters for that state. All of the mailing dates will be in October, so you've got plenty of time. Whether you start writing now, as Dan just described, or in May with the free postcards, volunteers do need to provide their postage stamps. So take that into consideration based on what your budget is. And if you're only going to be able to want to write, 100 postcards in 2024, you're probably better off waiting. But if you want to spend, much of the year writing postcards, 5 a day, based on how much time you've got, then there's no reason to wait. If you're willing to buy the postcards, those are a lot less expensive than the stamps always. So people can write a certain number of postcards before they're hand cramps up. So, but we need to write a lot, because if one person tried to write 25 million, it would take over 1 million hours, which is more than a lifetime. So, we need a lot of people doing it.
Well, we can do it together. And, I figured I'm a big coffee drinker. I'm always got a cup of coffee when I'm doing my interviews and doing my blue revving and everything else. But for the price of a cup of coffee a month, you can write a few a month. And of course, you have to buy your own for now. But starting in May, we can really start to heat up and get even more done. But, think about, folks, how many you want to write. I mean, just write the number down, think about it. Think about how many you can write from now until May, how many you can afford from now until May. And then after that, how many you can do based on how much time you have. And we can have some fun with it, right? Like, how much impact do you want to have on the 2024 election? You can almost quantify it. I love doing things like that. And then together, we can help build this massive effort to get 26 million postcards into the hands of would-be voters in, I hate to keep using this phrase because we use it every election, but the most important election in our lives. And it's important to get started sooner than later. So that's why we're doing this. But Reid, we're just so happy that we're partnered up with Progressive Turnout Project. It's a great organization. We would love to help with postcards and get started soon. Everything that you folks are doing over there is so wonderful. Just, we're in some very scary times right now. And by the way, I should say, we're going to provide the links for signing up now, both in terms of postcards that you can buy and in terms of how you get the messages that you should write on these postcards. We'll provide those now. It'll be here in the post. I'll be posting it in Blue Rev. But sign up in the link that's up there right now, and everything will be provided to you that you need right now. So Reid, any sort of closing thoughts that you want to leave us with here in Blue Rev as we embark upon another saving democracy mission here going towards 2024?
I mean, we're talking about it, which is just the actions that we can all take that'll control our destiny. So, I mean, I think it's anxiety doesn't help at all. It's taking that fear and taking the enthusiasm about, what we can do if we all work together to make this happen. So let's make it happen. And thank you all for everybody's volunteer efforts. That's inspiring.
All right, Blue Rev, I want to introduce to our program here Nia Bentall, who is the Director of Mobilization for Vote Forward. A lot of you are very familiar with Vote Forward. We did a lot of Vote Forward stuff over the years here in Blue Rev. But Nia, thanks for coming on, and welcome to Blue Rev. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, of course. Happy to be here.
Great. Nia, if I could just ask you, how do you feel about the 2024 election? We are 1 year out. I know it's a loaded question, but it's sort of what I'm just asking a lot of different folks right now. How do you feel as sort of an organizer about 2024 right now? Just some thoughts.
Yeah. Well, as an organizer, I'm feeling like what is really going to make the difference in 2024, like all the close elections that we've seen for the past few years, are really the grassroots volunteers. So it's people committing to calling, to knocking on doors, and at Vote Forward, of course, people writing letters. And I'm really heartened about the grassroots momentum that we've seen so far, just in 2023, an odd year, what some people call an off year. And for 2023 at Vote Forward, we wrote 1.15 million letters to voters in Wisconsin, Virginia, and Ohio. And of course, we saw big wins in Wisconsin and Ohio. And hopefully we'll see wins again in Ohio and Virginia this Tuesday. And so those numbers to me in an odd year are a really promising indication to the strength and the activity of our movement going into 24.
Indeed. Yeah. And, off years are usually tough to get people interested as organizers and sort of fired up. But, it still is 2023. And we do have a number of folks in Blue Rev who are just really excited to get started on kind of whatever they can. But letter writing is something that we've done a lot of here in Blue Rev, Nia. And if you could just speak to sort of the nature of letter writing, the effectiveness of letter writing over time that you've seen at Vote Forward?
Yeah, absolutely. So our founder, Scott, actually created the very first Vote Forward campaign as an experiment, writing letters by himself at his kitchen table in 2017. So that kind of experimentation and rigorous testing of our tactic has really been a core part of Vote Forward from the very beginning. In 2020 and 2022, we ran these big randomized control trials. And we've also done more creative concepts like testing voter registration letters, vote by mail letters, issue focused letters, bilingual letters, and more. And the results of these are pretty consistently positive. In 2020, in particular, we partnered with the Analyst Institute to independently verify our results. And their conclusion was that Vote Forward letters were one of the most effective voter turnout tactics ever measured in a presidential election, which is obviously great news. We're excited to keep writing and keep experimenting. But overall, we've been testing our letters for 6 years. We've seen these consistent positive results. And I want to note that this would absolutely not be possible without the over 230,000 people who have written over 31.5 million letters with us. That is a huge number of letter writers contributing their time, their postage money, their paper money, and like getting people to write with them. And that huge volunteer effort is why we're able to feel really confident about our results.
Indeed.
And just to put another finer point on it, we rigorously test our letters for a few reasons. And the first is for our letter writers. You power the work. You deserve to know about the impact of your efforts. And it's for us at Vote Forward. We need to use evidence to keep learning and evolving over time. And it's also for democracy. More effective Vote Forward campaigns mean more voters making their voices heard in these critical elections.
Indeed. And one of the things that we've noticed in Blue Rev over the years is that people are anxious. I mean, it almost goes without saying. People feel anxiety, they feel cloudy, they feel disoriented, they feel like they don't know what to do in times like this. And I think that there's something kind of tactile about writing, letters, just kind of like literally kind of feeling the paper and writing, and there's sort of that part of it sort of keeping moving. I mean, you see me like when I interview, I even just kind of like jot notes. It's just a way to kind of like keep on an even keel. And so I think that there's a sense of just directionality to these letters, to writing these letters. Whenever I talk to people who have written these letters, they always feel better after,
Yes.
Right? Like I've never talked to someone who's been like, oh man, I really wish I didn't do that. Like everyone is into it. And I'm sure that you get lots of testimonials from people in Vote Forward. If you could just kind of speak to that part of it a little bit, just like the impact, the emotional impact that one has after writing these letters.
Yeah, 100% what you said about having something tactile to do is something that we hear a lot from our letter writers. And hearing about that is really the favorite part of my job. Because a lot of people say that they love the feeling of doing something physically, doing something with your hands, and that it's calming. Because taking action really gives us a sense of hope in the face of a lot of uncertainty. And also it's about what we're writing in our letters, I think. We encourage our letter writers to share a personal story about voting in their message to voters, because that's what's proven to be effective. We tested it on brand. Voters receive a lot of messages about why they should vote, but somebody's personal story can really show them how voting impacts real people's lives. And when we share a message about voting, we want to inspire this "you can make a difference" mentality, to invoke emotions that are about a belief in democracy, the ability to take an impactful action. And our messages really focus on the hope of what can happen when we all participate, as opposed to the fear of what could happen if we don't. And also just taking the time to think about your own personal reason for voting and then sharing it is really gratifying, I think. And also, letters are just really fun and easy. You can write them while you're watching TV at night. You can get a few friends together and write them at a brewery. You can do it at a community event. And they're a really great way to get someone who's never taken a political action to take that first step, because it's not as intimidating maybe as other volunteer activities.
Right. And it's not getting involved in politics like I'm going to go argue with someone.
Yeah, totally.
It's I'm going to make a positive statement for why voting is important, for why democracy is important. And as I always say, like anytime I've got an excuse to kind of get people together in a room, I know that there are a lot of people in Blue Rev and a lot of people just in the greater kind of Vote Forward universe who use it as an excuse to sort of get their friends together, their family together, their neighbors together. When I was up in Boston for 2018 and 2020, we did a lot of sort of getting people together at coffee shops.
Yeah.
And like coffee shop owners would be thrilled. We'd be like, can we get like some folks in here around that table in the corner, like Tuesday evening or something? And they'd be like, yeah, absolutely. We want to get our word out about our business too. So yeah, it is kind of like about bringing people together too. So it's kind of the tactile part, the personal part, the bringing people together, and of course the effectiveness. You mentioned earlier about how it was seen by the Analyst Institute as the most effective voter turnout tool. There was an article in Time Magazine, I remember, after 2020 about it, and I remember sharing that widely in Blue Rev and being like, look, like we made a difference here. It just got so many more votes out, and that election came down to 44,000 votes in 3 states. So really did have just a huge impact, and so we really appreciate that. Yeah, what is the how can we help? How can Blue Rev help going into the next election cycle?
Yeah, well, we are planning on writing a lot of letters in 2024. So we encourage you to get signed up with a Vote Forward account. So you can go to votefwd.org/Blue Revolution. So votefwd.org/Blue Revolution. And you sign up for a volunteer account. And that just looks like answering a few quick questions. We have a real human review every application just to make sure that you're not a bot and that everyone's writing in good faith. So the approval of your account can take a day or so, depending on volume. And when you're approved, you get a welcome email, and then you can get started in writing your letters.
Great.
Unfortunately, we don't have letters available right now. We just sent our letters to Ohio and Virginia on October 31st. But please create an account and stay tuned, because we're going to announce our 2024 letters coming up. They should be available early 2024.
Great. So early 2024. So folks, if you're listening right now, we are just trying to get people signed up. Like that's step one. It's very simple. Again, votefwd.org/Blue Revolution. We will have the link right here for you. And you can sign up, I think, using your email, your Google account, or your Facebook account, right?
Facebook,
yeah.
All of those, yeah.
Cool. Yeah. And it just takes a minute. Someone reviews it, you get an email, and then you get instructions on how to do it. And I got to say, like, there is something about like the kind of the personal assembly line of printing, writing, sending that just becomes very rhythmic and fun after a while too, once you get started. But yeah, early 2024. So let's get signed up now, and then later on we'll start doing them, and we will let all of you know right when those letters are available to start writing. But we're really happy to help, Nia. We're happy to have you here. This has been great. We love working with people who are pro-democracy. That's kind of our vibe these days. Is there anything else you'd like to add just at the end here to Blue Rev members as we go into this next cycle here?
Yeah, I really just want to say thank you. This work would not be possible without people like you writing and taking your time, and like I said, your postage supplies to write these letters. And so we really appreciate that.
Indeed. And we appreciate you so much, Nia, and everything that you and everyone at Vote Forward does. It's just such an incredible resource. We're so excited to get started. We really are. So thank you so much for being here, Nia. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you.